Hey, welcome everybody. We're here with the Dirt Trail Running Podcast, Coffee with Coaches Edition, here with Coach Reese and Coach Loretta. And I just finished up my protein shake because I was squeezing in a little strength session before we got started. How are you today?
Nice. I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually drinking some black coffee out of our Ornery Mule mug here. It is my
Nice.
first cup of the day. Listeners know that I'm an avid fan of coffee, and for me to wait this long during the day is kind of a miracle. But I just got back from Veteran Acres. Had a good couple hour run out there, just testing my leg and seeing what the old calf can do. Getting pretty stoked for Galena coming up next week. So I'll be emceeing for the first couple hours and then running the 4 hour with Deanna afterwards. So yeah, we got a lot to be excited about these next couple weeks. So that's how I'm doing.
That's awesome. Well, I noticed that we're twinning today with our Ornery Meal coaching hats on too. I
That's right.
have to tell you, I live in my hat.
Me too. It's so fresh. It still has the sticker on it,
I see
so
that.
everybody
My
can
sticker
see
is
that
gone.
it's factory fresh.
Oh, that's great. So I have been preparing. I was asked last weekend if I wanted to join a team and help crew and pace at Cocodona. So I'm excited to be crewing with Randy Knight. I'll be crewing with his wife Barb and Tara, who is also part of our Ornery Meal community. So it should be a great time. But before we got on, I was telling Reese about just kind of preparing to be ready for all conditions in the desert is interesting. You know, the temperature ranges from like 20 degrees to 90 degrees. This last week it snowed in Flagstaff. So just being prepared for all of that, I'm just trying to get everything ready. So I fly out Monday and we'll be back on Saturday. So next episode, I'm sure I'll have some great fun to share about Cocodona. So with that, we've been thinking about like, what do we want about our topic on our show? And I'll say that Derek, my husband, is always trying to throw ideas past me, and he's an idea man that I don't always love his ideas, but we decided to take this one and run with it. And his idea was that we should check out Chat AI and see what they could tell us about some things about coaching. And it's a pretty hot topic right now. People using AI to decide if is it good? Is it can it replace coaches? Let's see what we got. So Reese has it pulled up on the share screen. So if you are on our YouTube, you can see it. If you're just listening, we're going to talk about it as we go through. You're not going to miss anything that way either. So Reese, what are we going to ask it first?
I want to ask it first, just the broad question. I want to run Cocodona 250-mile ultra marathon in 2025. How do I need to train to finish? I'm going to hit the send button right now. We're going to talk about what pops up. So we're using Chat GPT 3.5. So we'll see what it gives us. Right now, I mean, it's populating with a good amount. Okay, so just the highlights so far. Number one, I'm starting to see build base. Number two, I'm seeing gradually increase your mileage. Number three, train on terrain. Number four, strength and condition. Number five, practice nutrition and hydration. Number six, recovery. Number seven, race conditions. Number eight, mental preparations. Nine, taper. And 10, have a plan, but be flexible. Holy smokes, it's like Chat GPT listens to our podcast.
I
That's
know. I
amazing.
think I think they're cheating off of us.
Okay, so if I want to run Cocodona 250, here's what ChatGPT is telling me. Start by building a solid base of running fitness. This may involve several months of consistent running at lower mileage to prepare your body for the increased training load ahead. So I think that's kind of like what we talk about all the time, where it's like sometimes like you need to train, right? Like you need to lay all the foundation, do all the unsexy things of just getting the heartbeats in, getting some impact on the legs before you can actually spice in the sexier, cooler, like varied terrain type of training. Um, so I mean, from everything that we just read off, I think like Chat GPT is off to a great start. That's kind of everything that we preach here.
Yeah.
Although I do have to knock it that it is so broad that like, okay, now where do I go? Like my first question is like, okay, so number one, like build a base. Like where do I start? Like I'm not, like how do I know? Maybe I'm not running right now. Like Chat GPT doesn't know. Like what does build a base actually mean? So it's interesting to get these like overall
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. It gives you a really
synopses,
nice
but
general guideline, but then there's not any real specific details. Maybe if we asked it another question, what build a base means, maybe
yeah.
maybe it'll tell us. And like, how many miles is that? Like, You know, if I'm starting at 25 miles right now, where do I go from there?
Let's ask it. Okay, here's my search. I'm running 20 miles per week and looking to increase my mileage for Cocodona 250 in 2025. What should my peak mileage be in order to succeed at the race? One thing I know about ChatGPT is that like you have to be really specific with your questions. So I feel like, kind of like the first phone call that I have with athletes, like there's a bunch of questions about like, like where do I start? What do I start with? Like, and my questions are always then like, what does your training look like before? And if I can get my hands a hold of people's training logs before I even like sit down and talk with them, it just gives us a better like goal because then I can tell somebody like, hey, you've been super consistent with your mileage in like the 20s to 30s for the past 8 weeks. So now maybe we start like a build cycle, or maybe somebody hasn't been running like consistently. So then it's like, okay, maybe we do need to start like that first couple weeks, maybe 4 weeks of just making sure we're consistent at lower mileage.
Yeah, I like that
Okay.
too. I really like to take our platform from Run DNA, go back and look at what people are doing. And then I also like to look at some variables like what is their heart rate looking like? Are they running their miles easy or truly easy, or are they pushing the pace all the time? So then we can kind of see where to go from there. And it's also a good time when you first get someone to start to, just take a quick peek at what's their cadence look like. Are there any things that we want to like kind of tweak or focus when we're working on that base building as well?
Okay, so to prepare for this is what ChatGPT is telling me. To prepare for a 250-mile ultra marathon like Cocodona, you need to significantly increase your weekly mileage from your current 20 miles per week. So I don't think ChatGPT is really
Significant.
liking that I'm only running 20 miles a week preparing for Cocodona now. But it's a good thing that we're running it in 2025, right?
Yeah, we got time.
So, okay, so chat then says, however, the exact peak mileage you'll need can vary depending on factors such as your current fitness level, running experience, time available for training, and individual physiological response to training. That being said, there's a general guideline for how you might want to increase your mileage leading up to the event. Number one, I think this is awesome. ChatGPT is knocking it out of the park. Number one, set incremental goals. Number two, increase mileage slowly. Number three, incorporate long runs. Number four, incorporate back to back long runs. Number five, peak training phase. During your peak training phase, which typically occurs several weeks before the race, you may aim to reach your highest weekly mileage. This could range anywhere from 70 to 100 miles plus per week for some ultramarathoners. But again, it depends on individual factors. And then it says taper and listen to your body. Okay,
Oh, listen to your
so
body. They stole that. They stole that from us.
yeah, 100%. Okay, so I'm not really liking how vague chat is being with us right now. Like if I was a
Right.
client on the end, I'd be like, I'm running 20 miles a week and eventually I'm going to get up to like 70 to 100 plus to have the best chances of success at Cocodona. I
Right.
don't really believe in that. I think there's a lot of people that, can succeed in these longer races without like having sky high mileage. What do you think, coach?
Yeah, I agree. And I also am a little disappointed that it's just going by miles and not time. A lot of people training for these big races like this are going to be training by time. And that's for a reason. Some people that are going to be moving slower. If you're doing 100 miles and you're going at a much slower pace, if you're doing 100 miles in 1 week and you're going at a much slower pace, that could be 20 plus hours of training a week.
Yeah. And there's nothing here mentioning too, like elevation gain. Of
Right.
course,
Yep.
like we were talking about, we did only ask it about mileage. We haven't even gone into elevation gain. So maybe that should be our next question
Maybe
is
it should.
like, like I'm running X mileage. What should my elevation gain be? But
Right.
yeah, I do like that. I do like that. I'm training two people right now that specifically like to train by time and not worry about mileage because there's only so much time in these slots that we have like during the day. It's not always easy to say like I'm going to go out for a 20-mile long run because if you're at Veterans Acres, that might take like 5 to 6 hours, as opposed to if you're just on like flat ground. So Yeah, I mean, I think Chat GPT is kind of letting us down in the sense where it's like, like if I was looking at this for the first time, I would think to myself, man, well, I'm a long ways away from 70. And if I've only, been running about 20 miles a week for a long time, like 70 is going to be a pretty big shock to the system. Might
Right.
take a while to ramp up to.
For sure. And then I also think that there's some people that are going to be overly ambitious because they're super excited about taking on this endeavor, that they're going to increase their miles super fast to get to that number because there's no guidance here. It just says 20 miles, now we're 70 to 100 miles. And then I think also taking that, time a step further, let's just talk about that a second. So if we compared Reese and I running, let's say we ran for an hour and a half, I might get in 9 to 10 miles. Reese might get in, I don't know, 7 to 8. And, so, but it's all about time on feet, and it's also about, our body, my body, an hour and a half, Reese's body, an hour and a half. We're still getting that same time on our bodies, right? Our body doesn't know miles, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It knows time at intensity is the way that I like to think about it. Where, like your body, say if Coach Loretta and I are running at the same effort, even if it's a different pace, we're running at the same effort for the same amount of time, our bodies are gonna feel that effort in the same way comparatively to each other. At least that's the idea in physiology. So uh whereas, say if we run for an hour and you're fitter than I am and you get, like 8 miles and I run for an hour and I get 6 miles, well, maybe the relative intensity is the exact same. So in that case, regardless of the miles, we got a very similar stimulus on our bodies with our current fitness condition levels. Okay, so I want to ask Chat GPT, how much elevation gain should I have in my runs in order to succeed in Cocodona 250 Ultra Marathon in 2025? I'm gonna hit send.
Maybe I should have asked that before I agreed to pace.
Before what?
Before I agreed to pace. Am I
Yeah.
at enough elevation for the year?
Oh my gosh, we're getting okay. This is some gold. We're getting some good insight here. I like this. Okay, Chat GPT says the Cocodona 250 is known for its challenging terrain and significant elevation gain. Making elevation training an essential component of your is an essential component of your preparation. But why didn't it tell us this in the first 10, the first 10 bullets that it gave us, which again were awesome bullet points. But now that we're like diving a little bit deeper, what if I didn't know to ask this question? Like a
Right,
lot of people when they
absolutely.
train, they just think miles, they don't even think about elevation gain.
Right. And one
Um,
of the first things I do when I take on an athlete is, have them let me know like what races are you planning on doing? What's your big A goal race? And then I go to Google and I start, searching those races out and learning a little bit about them so I know what it's going to take to get them there. I don't know. How about you?
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm sorry, can you repeat that real quick?
Yeah, so when I first take on an athlete, one of the first things I do is figure out what races that they're going to be doing, what's their A goal race, and then I'm on
Yeah.
Google figuring out what race that is and learning about it, looking at the elevation profile, looking at all of the aspects, what the temperatures are going to be, so that I know how to prepare them. So it really needs to
For
be
sure. Okay, that's what I
priority.
thought you said. I'm multitasking, reading and
Yeah, I get
listening
it.
at the same time.
I'm
So
glad
no,
you're
so
the
that's
one multitasking, not me.
that's what Chad is saying right now too. Number one, research the race course. Number two, gradual progression. Number three, include hill training. Number four, vary your terrain. Number five, focus on downhill running. Okay, that one might be a little suspect. I want to read into that one a little bit more. Number six, train at race specific elevation. That
Oh,
is a
if you
good.
can't? What if you
Yeah,
can't?
it says if possible, try to train at elevations
What
similar
if
to those
what
you'll
if it's
encounter.
not possible? It's not telling me what to do because I live in Michigan and I can't.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Okay, number seven, listen to your body. I have this sneaking suspicion that Chat GPT is trying to cover his ass by always wrapping up with listen to your body. It's kind of like the old, like, I'm not your doctor, scapegoat. But okay, so focus on downhill running. It says don't neglect downhill running in your training. Running downhill can be just as challenging as running uphill, and it requires specific strength and technique. Practice descending steep hills to build confidence and resilience in your legs. That's a good like global type of statement, but it doesn't give me any direction for like, okay, like like what kind of sets, what kind of reps, like how steep, like when do I incorporate that in a training plan? You know, do I
Yes. Do I
incorporate
do
that
it
every
daily?
single week?
Yeah.
What's that?
Do I do it daily?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Run downhill as hard as you can every day, and that's the best way to prepare for your next ultra marathon. Just kidding. Don't everybody do that.
I held up. Did it ever tell us to strength train? I can't remember in the beginning what there was a strength training in there or no?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was like
Okay.
number. Okay, hold on,
Okay.
hold on.
Oh, yep.
Yep, number
That's
4, strength and conditioning. Got it right here.
good. Good. All right. 1 point for Chat GPT.
Okay. Ultimately, this is Chat GPT talking. Ultimately, the goal of your elevation training should be to build both physical strength and mental resilience to tackle the climbs and descents of the Cocodona 250 course. By gradually increasing your elevation gain in training and focusing on specific hill work, you'll be better prepared to tackle the challenges of the race on race day. I think that's a good statement from Chat GPT. I like that. Because
Sure.
a lot of times, like, I'm just experiencing this now. Like, I've been doing a lot of biking because I've been a little injured, right? So, and with biking, you can go a lot faster, like with less energy. So now when I'm running, I'm like doing an 8 minute, like on hilly terrain, an 8 minute mile. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going so slow. But then I think to myself, like, oh no, like 8 minutes a mile on this really hilly terrain is great. But the world is passing past me at like a different speed, right? So it makes me feel like, oh, I'm not going as fast as I have been because I've been doing a bunch of biking, and biking it's like, like the world's just passing you. So I do like that idea of mental resilience to tackle the climbs and descents of the Cocodona 250 course, because I think that there's a certain level of like mental preparation where you need to understand that, like, hey, I'm going to be moving slower up these hills. You know what I mean? And when you're going downhill, you got to think to yourself, like, hey, like this isn't going to feel comfortable after 100 miles, you know? So I think that's a good statement there.
I wonder what gear I should have to be ready.
What gear? That's it. That's a really good question. That's a very open-ended question. Okay, let's ask chat. I am running Cocodona 250 in 2025. What gear should I purchase, and how much will I be spending
Shh, let's not talk about how much it is.
to prepare myself? Okay. Send. Okay, so before we read Chat GPT, do you want to talk about how you've been preparing your gear for
Oh, sure.
your
Sure, sure.
preparation?
Yeah, so it's been, pretty last minute, right? I just found out last Saturday. So I've been looking through what I have and deciding what I need or what I want to take. So, the temperatures can range anywhere from like 20 to 90 degrees. So I want to make sure that I am prepared for both cold and heat. So, I ordered a new hat that's the sun hat, with the pieces that come down and has ice in it. While I have an ice hat, I don't have one that comes down to shade me. So I decided I needed that. Another thing I wanted for staying cool was a sun shirt. And I can't wait because I have an Ornery Mule coaching sun shirt that I just got in the mail, and it's so awesome. Michelle and I are going to be twinning, I think. We have a lot of the similar gear. And so that's another thing I got. Another piece is I needed a new vest. So my running vests are much smaller because I'm not running and carrying a ton of stuff. And the pacers are required to have the same things as the racers. So, I need a puffy coat, to keep myself warm. So I bought a packable puffy coat. REI loves me right now. And wait a second, my husband might be listening. So I just borrowed a puffy coat from someone or something. Anyway,
Yeah.
so they got that.
Ignore that tag on it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, I needed enough space for that. So I went from my 4 liter that I'm used to a 12 liter, so that piece is a big important part. So I'm trying to think what else. Oh, breaking out my gaiters. I've ran a lot of races where people recommend gaiters, but I've never used them. So I'm going to probably break those out. A couple of new pairs of trail running shoes to be prepared for the different terrain at Cocodona as well. So those are things that I've thought of. I'm sure I'm missing something. I have some different layers, some hat, gloves, of course, warm pants, and then, sunglasses and, all that gear too. What am I missing? I'm sure I'm missing something, but that's off the top of my head. Oh,
Sunscreen, nut
headlamp.
butter.
You have to have a couple headlamps. Yes, I got a new pot of squirrel's nut butter to be prepared.
What about
Ordered
like
some
battery
untapped
packs?
battery packs.
Battery packs. Yeah, to
Oh,
recharge your gear.
so I have a rechargeable headlamps, so I'll pack a couple, and I will also have the charger in the car so I can charge up there. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what else is on the list. Things that a whistle. So I have a whistle on my vest, a compass. I think my husband is pretty sure I'm gonna get lost out in the desert. So we have a compass that I don't really know how to use, but I have it. And I just hope that Randy doesn't go unconscious because I couldn't make it out alone on it with a compass, carrying him over my shoulder. So Randy better stay with me. Um, Randy does have a tracker, so we'll have that GPS enabled tracker.
Mhm.
And another piece is getting the GPX file onto your watch because we might lose signal here and there, so we need to make sure we know where we're going along the way. Preparing for water crossings. My part that I'm pacing, I will have 2 water crossings at least, and so being prepared for that is another thing.
I love talking about water crossings. That's near and dear to my heart after running Potawatomi.
Nice, nice. Yeah.
You know what though? You know what's awesome about racing those type of races is that like when you are forced to get your feet wet, now you have that skill and you'll have that skill for a while. Like Deanna and I raced Potawatomi, and we're so used to getting our feet wet now that like this past Sunday when we were training at our local trails, and she ended up going like knee deep into like this big puddle that she thought was only like a couple inches. It's like no big deal anymore. Like
Oh, that's great.
I can run for 45 minutes with wet feet. It's not like running for 10 hours with wet feet.
Nice. Well, I'm going to use Coach Lindsay's tip on using some of the spray for athlete's feet to keep your feet dry. So I need to
Mm.
get that yet. Couple things I also forgot. So I typically use bottles in the front. I don't use a hydration pack, but we're required to have a certain amount of water that we carry. So I have a hydration pack in the mail. I'm telling you, UPS is going to be burning up my driveway any minute because I have so much stuff coming. And also poles. So I'll be I already have a set of Lucky poles, but I didn't have a good place to carry them. So I bought a Solomon waist pack to put it on so I can slide them in the back. So that's another big thing. So yeah.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun.
Oh, it is.
I love
It's
talking
so
about
much.
gear because it makes me
Can't wait.
daydream about all the things that
I
I want.
know.
Okay, so Chat GPT says number one, shoes. Invest in a durable pair of trail running shoes with excellent grip and support. Expect to spend anywhere from $100 to $200 for a high quality pair. Okay, I want to challenge that because I'm a huge proponent of buying things used. I'm a huge proponent of buying new things for sure too. But I actually have some shoes coming in from this website called GearTrade.com, and a lot of their shoes are like quote unquote used. So it's like a lot of them will be like display models that aren't selling. So a running store lists them on this website to reach a wider audience, and they'll put them on like 50 to 75% off. So I got some like $50. I want to say there is it Brooks Ghosts? Is it Brooks Ghosts?
There is
I'd have to
Brooks.
double check what's actually coming in. But yeah, so like $50 for a pair of running shoes is great. I checked out all the images. They're not even worn. So there are definitely good deals that you can find out there. But yeah, $100 to $200 for a high quality new pair for sure. But I guess there's some companies out there that are breaking the mold, charging like $200 to $300 plus for some of their shoes too. So I think Chat GPT just kind of gave us a ballpark on that one.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't really tell you what exactly kind of shoes. It just says trail running shoes. And
Hmm.
when you look at the Cocodona course, that's something that I've been thinking about. Some of the sections I'm running has a variety of terrain. So it goes from like fire type roads, right, gravel roads, single track, stream crossings, pavement. So I wanted something that I could handle, the pavement, but also on the trails. I mean, there's also rocky sections. So, that's the things that I considered as I was picking out new shoes. I went with the Ultra Wild Experience that are brand new out this week. Reached out to one of our former coaches, Mike Anderson, who works for Ultra, and said, "Hey, Mike, which shoes do I need for Cocodona?" And he told me those, and I was actually on my way to Running Lab, my local running store, to go grab a pair. So got those and tried them out. They work out great for me. I have Ultras, so it's not like a brand new shoe for me or a new drop for me. So I'm comfortable in them. And I also then decided I wanted a backup pair that was a little bit different drop. And so I'm going with the Brooks Cascadia, which I'm going to try out today. Again, I have Brooks that are the exact same drop that I wear. So I feel pretty comfortable in those shoes. So yeah, I have that. And then of course I have a few pair of my that I already had that I'll bring as backups.
Yeah, and I think Chat GPT has given us a pretty broad answer for this one too, because like shoes, like that's a comment that you can make about any trail running race. But for Cocodona, like if it's gonna be like mainly dirt, like something with like minimal lugs would be like okay, right? Like
Right.
maybe you don't need that like Solomon Speed Cross with like gnarly big lugs, because sometimes if the dirt is like so hard pack or like you're running on, like basically what's like a hard fire road, like sometimes feeling those lugs, almost like feeling lugs on asphalt, is just kind of like unsettling. It's like not that comfortable.
Yes,
So
that's why I was pretty picky with my shoes because I don't like to feel that, and I knew that there would be some
yeah,
spots like that, so I wanted to be prepared.
yeah. Okay, 2, clothing. Purchase moisture wicking and breathable clothing suitable for varying weather conditions.
Mhm.
This may include shorts, shirts, socks, and a lightweight waterproof jacket. Budget around $100 to $3 for a complete set of running apparel. Ooh.
Well, Chat GPT might be thinking the 70s.
Oh, yeah, maybe, I think that's purchasing everything at like cost.
Or
Hopefully you
at a
have that
garage
connection
sale.
if you're listening to Chat GPT, because I mean, a jacket alone is probably going to be at least a couple hundred there.
Right, right.
Okay, so moisture wicking and breathable, that makes sense to me. But I mean, there's some people who don't want the moisture wicking for races, right? Like they want the cotton, they want something to like soak with water so that way it doesn't
Mhm.
just draw it away from the body right away. So I don't know if this is particular to Cocodona or not. I think it's another like widespread answer from ChatGPT because you look at a lot of people running Western states now. Like they're going back to the cotton so that they can stay
Right.
wet all day, so that way they can,
Live in
get
the
that
water
heat
and
off their
cooler. Yeah.
body. Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that is something I forgot to mention. That's another piece that I got was I have. It's an ice bandana. I have a couple of ones that were made and one that's made by Rabbit that you can get on the Ornery Mule Racing website that will keep me hopefully cool with ice along the way too and water.
And chances are, I mean, if you're going to be running Cocodona, you're going to be going through at least a couple pairs of socks,
Yeah.
because it's such a long race, so many days. So, I mean, if you're going to buy all new socks, like I could spend $100 just in
I was
like
gonna say
blister proof socks.
I was gonna say I hope Derek's not listening, but I'm sure I paid at least that much in my socks. I
Yeah,
had to get some extra new socks. Who goes to a race with not new socks? Come on.
that's right. Yeah. No, no holes in those socks. Okay, number 3, hydration system. Consider investing in a hydration vest or pack to carry water, electrolyte drinks, and nutrition during the race. Price ranges from $50 to $200 depending on the brand and the features.
Yep, that
I
checks
think that's
out.
about accurate.
Yep, yep. I went with the Solomon Active 12 liter. I have a friend that's getting ready to run Tahoe, and she's been doing a lot of research. She happened to have, luckily, a spare that was going to return, and because they're all out of stock, and it fit me perfect. So that's what I'm doing, and I had to order the bladder, which again is in the mail.
Nice. Okay, number 4, nutrition. I think, okay, I want to see what this one says. Maybe this is the next rabbit hole we go down. Stock up on energy gels, chews, bars, and other portable nutrition options to fuel your body during the race. Costs can vary widely depending on your preference and dietary needs, but budget around $50 to $200 for race nutrition. That is absolutely lowballing because I'm telling you, if you buy nothing but gels, like you can spend like at least $400 if you're fueling completely just off of gels for a 250-mile race for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, maybe $200 if you're eating like Wonder Bread and like, basic bulk peanut butter, but
And carrying a bottle of bear honey.
yeah, hey, it's been almost a year ago that I fueled, almost on just honey and gnarly. So I was thinking about that for next weekend. For the listeners that don't know, last year at Galena Sky Race, I just took it as like a training race, and I just wanted to see like if I could stomach just doing honey for such a long time, and it worked out pretty well. But of course, it's nice to be able to say that like, oh, I'm slurping like 100 calories of honey here, 100 calories of honey there, and when you're taking it straight from the bear bottle, you never really know.
The thing is every time I
um,
see the honey bear, now I think of you. Like I go through the store, there's the honey bear.
okay, so 5, headlamp and flashlight. Since ultra marathons often involve running through the night, a reliable headlamp or handheld flashlight is essential for visibility. Expect to spend $30 to $100 for a quality light source. That's lowballing. That's old information. If you're only spending $30 for your headlamp and you're gonna run Cocodona, like you're gonna need a couple of them at least, like you were saying, Loretta. I think
Yeah,
mine that I love, I have a Petzl. Um, I think mine itself was like $120, and like that's my one headlamp to outlast all other headlamps. It's
right,
got the React, so it's like battery sparing, like all of that stuff. And I want to say $120 nowadays for a headlamp is
yeah,
pretty. I don't want to say it's entry level, but it's definitely not top of the line anymore.
right, right. I would agree. Yeah, and that is one thing I had. I did not have to purchase that. I have several headlamps, so I was good to go. Check.
Mhm. Navigation. Chat GPT says familiarize yourself with the race course and consider investing in a GPS watch or handheld navigation device to track your progress and avoid getting lost. Good advice. Prices for GPS watches range from $100 to $600 depending on the model and features. I'm
That's old news too.
way
$100.
old
You
news.
get a GPS watch for $100. It's gonna last you like maybe 12 hours.
Okay, so I wanna plug Koros here. This is totally unsponsored. But if you get like the Pace 2, like you're spending, I want to say like $300, and it's got amazing features and it's got a great battery life. However, it's not gonna last you for Cocodona. You're gonna have to recharge on the go. But $600, like that's kind of like mid-level for a
Yeah.
watch. I want to say like maybe like $200 to $300 is like entry level.
Mhm.
6 to 8, no, $500 to $600 would be like a mid-range model, and then I would say like $600 to $1,200 is going to be your upper end.
Right,
I want
right.
to say my Koros Vertex 2 about 2 years ago was about $800 and change.
Yeah.
Um,
I would
so
think that
this,
you'd want to go with a solar watch if you were going that far, maybe.
yeah, yeah, and I think Garmin is pretty much like the model to, or not the model, the brand that does a lot of that solar charging too. Okay, first aid kit. You want to pack a first aid kit with essentials like bandages, blister treatment, which I think is huge. I think blister maintenance and prevention is like one of those soft skill things that can ruin your race if you don't know how to manage your blisters. Um, and any personal medications you may need during the race. That's a given for sure. Um, Cost can vary, but budget around $20 to $50 for basic supplies, maybe at bare minimum. Um, okay, trekking poles, of course, that's a good one. Range from $50 to $200 per pair. Okay, yeah, that's about average. I want to say there's some like Leckies that can go for like 300 plus dollars a pair, but I'd say that's a good cost estimate there. My
Right.
first set of poles that are carbon poles, I actually bought secondhand from a friend of mine, and I charged, or he charged me $50. And those were like carbon fiber, telescopic, super light. My girlfriend just got some Leckies that are basically like, it's like holding air. It's like they're like, it's one of those things where you pick them up and you hold them and you're like, nothing should feel this light. Why is this light?
Right.
So plug for those guys. Okay, race entry fee. Okay, let's not forget about price to play. You got a budget for the race itself. Ultra marathons typically range from $200 to $600 or more, depending on the
I think
race
you're a little
distance
off there.
and prestige. Yeah, for sure. And then miscellaneous expenses. Consider any additional gear or accessories you may need, such as sun protection, sunscreen, sunglasses, hat, anti-chafe, extra batteries for your headlamp, and race-specific requirements. Okay. Overall, costs ranging from $600 to $2,000, depending on your individual needs and preferences, according to Chat GPT. Now, I have no idea what it costs to run Cocodona, but I want to
I'm
say,
trying to check, but I'm thinking it's around 1,500.
yeah, I want to say that's very much on the light side.
Yeah, yeah. I think that the total budget there might have just been taken up by registering or
Which,
close.
like we don't like to talk about like, costs with a lot of things. I think it's kind of like a taboo subject, right? But at the
Right,
same time too, like, when you sign up for a race like that, sometimes like, when you think about the price for admission and that's all you're thinking about, and you do need this other gear, like you're gonna have to like think about like all those weather conditions that we were talking about, right, Loretta?
right.
And when you're gonna run such a long race through different weather conditions, you do need to be prepared with all of those different pieces of gear. ChatGPT didn't even mention gaiters, which I think are pretty important.
Good
And
thing
those
you
are
have
over.
Coach Loretta here that mentioned gators.
Yeah, that's right. Um, so just from my experience going down into the canyon during a rim to rim to rim crossing, it's it's definitely a different experience when you're running in 20-degree weather and then it heats up to 110 plus and then it cools back down to 20 because even like 50 or 60 degrees like feels unimaginably cold after you've been outside exposed and heated up for such a long time. 60 degrees can make you hypothermic
For
after
sure.
you've been outside in the desert for such a while.
For sure. And also if like coming from the Midwest, we have a lot more humidity than they have in Arizona. And so the temperature of 30 degrees here versus 30 degrees there is so much colder. I did look up the price. Early entry for Cocodona was 1,395 and later entry, oh, that was last year, I guess, 1,495. So this was for 2023 prices. So, I mean, it takes a lot to put together these events. So, they have a ton of volunteers, a ton of aid and everything that's going into the cost of that race. So these races aren't as cheap as what they're saying.
What ChatGPT says.
No.
Um, okay, so I kind of want to dive down the nutrition rabbit hole, and maybe this will be our last question for ChatGPT. I want to say I'm running Cocodona 250 in 2025. How much should I be eating to fuel for my race? I
All
want to
right.
see what ChatGPT has to say about that. All right, here we go. It's populating an answer. It's given us a lot of info.
No, it is.
Oh, it stalled out a little bit. It came back. We're going strong.
Oh, it brought down the macros. Nice.
Let's start at the top while it keeps populating. Okay. Fueling properly for a 250-mile ultra marathon like Cocodona 250 is crucial for maintaining energy levels, says ChatGPT, which is, of course, important. You want to prevent bonking and support overall performance and recovery. Since ultramarathons are highly individualized and depend on factors such as your size, metabolism, pace, and environmental conditions, it's essential to develop a personalized nutrition plan through trial and error during your training. However, here are some general guidelines to consider. Caloric needs. Ultramarathon runners will burn a significant number of calories during long distance races, which with estimates ranging from 500 to 1,000 calories or more per hour, depending on factors like pace and terrain. Over the course of a 250-mile race, you may need to consume anywhere from 10,000 to 20,000 calories or more to sustain your energy levels. What do you think about that, Coach?
Well, I'm just trying to calculate. The race starts on Monday morning, right, and ends on Saturday at 10. So it's 6 days of run, right? Around about 6 days of running. So that would average out to, can't do the math.
well, let's say you're out there for the full time
Yeah.
and you're like a petite character who needs 2,000 calories an hour, or excuse me, 200,000, 2,000, no, 2,000 calories
250.
per day just to support
Yeah.
you living, right? Like
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
kind of like what we need as humans to be alive,
Yes.
and to go through the day, which, for most of us active individuals might be a little bit low. That's 12,000 calories right there.
Yep. Yep.
That's not on top of like all of the caloric expenditure that you're going to have just moving forwards, right? And
Right.
let's say that like on average on flat terrain, it takes about 100 calories to move 1 mile. So 250 miles times 100 is 25,000 calories. So we'll add that to, the 12,000 that you need just to be out there for 6 days anyways. And I would suspect that like, closer to like 37 to 40,000 calories is going to be like the average,
Right.
like estimate. I think that would be better. I think 10,000 to
10,000
20,000
is really low. Yeah.
is pretty low. I want to say, like based on the estimates that my watch and Strava gave me for my last 100-mile race, I burned about 10,000 calories just during that race alone. Not to mention again the calories I need just to be a human,
Right.
which is a couple thousand. So I want to say that's pretty low. So I definitely wouldn't. Let's say, okay. So let's give the top end of the range, the 20,000 calories, 20,000 calories divided by 6 days. Let's see. So about 144 hours,
Okay.
right? So let's take 20,000 divided by 144 hours. So on average, it wants you to eat 138 calories per hour,
Oh yeah.
which which
Definitely too low.
yeah, and I mean that's not including your sleeping time and stuff like that, but I mean that's very low for sure.
Right.
But to ChatGPT's recommendation, it is highly individualized.
Definitely.
But I mean, there's a lot of runners nowadays that are training their guts to handle, anywhere from like 300 to 400 calories per hour when they're running 100-mile races. Um, so I think that's kind of up for debate. Number one, the caloric needs. So don't listen to ChatGPT on that one. But it backs it up with number two, carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are the primary fuel source for endurance exercise, so it's essential to consume plenty of carbs before and during the race. Aim for a carbohydrate-rich diet in the days leading up to the race and consume easily digestible carbohydrate sources during the race, such as gels, chews, fruit bars, fruits, and sports drinks. I think that's important.
Hmm.
Protein. While carbohydrates are the main source, protein is also important for muscle repair and recovery. Include moderate amounts of protein in your pre-race meals and consider consuming protein-rich snacks or recovery drinks during breaks in the race. Now, okay, that's big. That's really big because a lot of like the classics endurance sports recommendations will tell you that carbs are king. Like just eat the carbs. Just worry about the carbs because your body needs energy. But I think ChatGPT kind of picked up in its scanning the interwebs that like, hey, when you're out there for such a long time, anyways, let's say you're going to be out there for the full 6 days, like you're going to need protein to be rebuilding and
Definitely.
repairing while you're just going. So I feel like that's the next frontier in these longer like ultra marathons, these ultra marathons is making sure that you get adequate protein levels so that way your body's not only having the energy to move forward, but having the energy and then the building blocks to be repairing while you're moving forwards.
Right.
So I think ChatGPT nailed it on the head there.
Yep. I
Okay,
agree.
fluids and electrolytes. Staying hydrated and maintaining electrolyte balance is critical for preventing dehydration, hyponatremia, and muscle cramps. Drink fluids regularly through the race and consider using electrolyte supplements or sports drinks to replace lost electrolytes. That's great, but that's surface level stuff. We know that
Yeah.
we need
There's
electrolytes,
not
right?
even a target, a range. Where should I be?
Exactly.
How much per hour? Doesn't
And
even
then it
talk
talks
about
about
sweat testing.
And then it talks about practicing your timing, practicing your variety of foods, listening to your body. Oh,
There it
and
is.
here's okay. Okay, so this sounds like you and I, Loretta. Number
They stole
8,
this from us.
practice, practice, practice. Use your long training runs as an opportunity to practice your race day nutrition plan and fine tune your strategy based on how your body responds. This will help minimize the risk of GI issues and ensure you're adequately fueled for the demands of the race.
I feel like there's some copyright infringement here. I think that they're listening to our podcast and they're just taking our words and putting them out there and giving us no credit.
Yeah, that's right. That should be in quotations. Quote Reese and Loretta. But I mean, like on the surface level, I think everything that Chat GPT has been giving us is like it's the tried and true, like, like surface level type of knowledge. But then like, this kind of leaves me thinking, okay, that's great, but now where do I start? You
Right.
know?
Gives you
A
just
lot of
enough to wet your
times,
whistle, right? Like, okay, I know a little bit.
yeah,
Now what do I do
enough
with
to make you feel
information?
like you've got it, right? Like to make you think that like, oh yeah, like I know what I'm doing. But then when you actually start to like, get into the specifics, then it's like, oh, you realize how much I don't know what I don't know, you know?
Right, right.
So, but I mean, if you want a very surface level plan, I guess, Chat GPT is somebody you could ask. But I feel like once people like start to like implement and practice their strategies and have to bounce ideas back and forth, that's where you need a little bit more info. You need a little bit more sustenance.
Right, for sure, for sure. Well, that was fun though, playing around with Chat GPT. So I hope everybody enjoyed our episode and we were able to take some takeaways from it. And I think the big takeaway is this might not be enough to get you to the finish of a 250-mile race.
Yeah, it's good enough to make you start thinking and wondering about a year out. So, maybe in 2025 I'll feel like I'll be able to confidently get through Cocodona as well, thanks to Chat GPT.
All right. Well, it was nice chatting with you. And next week we're going to skip because I'll be out in the desert somewhere, and we'll see you back the following week.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. Thank you, Loretta.
All right,
Have
thanks.
fun
Bye.
out there. It's gonna be a fun experience for y'all.
Be watching for us on the live stream. I might do something
Mhm.
crazy. You never know.
And good luck, Randy Knight. He is a great competitor and a great guy. I've had the chance to meet him and talk with him over the past like 2 years. So I'm rooting you on from Illinois here, buddy.
Yeah.
I'll
Oh,
be
and just
watching.
yeah, quick fun story. I met Randy and his wife Barb through Ornery Mule Book Club. So back in the early pandemic when it started is actually how I met him, and we've met each other at a few races. And so it's nice to know that you can meet people virtually and kind of build relationships that way. So I'm excited to be part of that. And there's a few other people from our book club that will also be at Cocodona. So I'm excited to see everyone.
Awesome. We'll have fun out there.
All right, bye.
Bye.